Hello, my name is Rob Sandstrom. You might recall in our previous instructional video we made a sign where the letters and the graphics were carved into the sign itself. During this video we're going to demonstrate with a few changes in the Vetric software how easy it is to take the same information and change it into a sign where the letters and the graphics are standing proud. In a previous video we carved this sign where the letters and the graphics were carved into the piece of wood, and a decorative border was placed around the edge of the sign using a V-bit. This time we're going to carve a sign where the letters stand proud inside of a pocket, and so does the graphic. We'll show you with a few changes in how you select your toolpaths the different techniques you can get to use the same material to make different looking signs. Well, here's the toolpath screen in this area from what we selected when we were building the sign with the lettering in and the graphic in. We initiated this process by having a VCarve toolpath set up to be able to carve the lettering into the sign. We had another VCarve toolpath set up to carve the inward graphic that we chose. And then we had another toolpath, which was actually a profile toolpath we used using a V-bit to give us the decorative border. And then finally we had a profile toolpath built to cut the sign material out. To change the look of this sign so that the lettering is standing proud and the graphic is standing proud, we have to select the toolpaths in a little different fashion. To do this, I'm going to go ahead and unselect all the toolpaths and we're going to start again. So the first toolpath, recall, was the Gone Fishin' carved in. I'm going to select that toolpath, and I'm actually going to edit that toolpath. And what I want to do is to change that toolpath so the Gone Fishin' area is actually standing proud along with the graphic. So the best way to do that is to go ahead and select New Vectors. The first thing I actually want to do is clear that toolpath so I don't have this noise here. So we're going to take and clear the toolpath. We're going to go ahead and select the vector, hit edit, and now we see this is a vector that's being carved in. What we want to do though is make this stand proud. To make this stand proud, we now want to select the outer vector, because now the VCarve toolpath will carve everything between this vector and this text. We also said we wanted to make the fish stand proud. So we're going to go ahead and select the line and hook. And we're going to select the profile of the fish. By doing this, we now have an area in between this border and the text and the graphic that will be carved down into the material. Let's carve that down in for about 0.25 inches. That's our flat depth. Need to correct that. We're going to use a different bit. We don't need a whole lot of detail. I'm going to go ahead and use a 45-degree bit. We're going to have a clearance toolpath. There's a lot of material to clear here, so I'm going to go ahead and select, I'm going to remove this 1/8 inch end mill, and I'm going to select a 1/4 inch end mill. Oops, I accidentally hit remove. Don't want to do that. I want to select it. We've got a selection from either an offset or a raster toolpath. I'll go ahead and leave it as I'll change it to a raster, and I'm going to change it. I'm not going to change it. I'm going to leave it at 0 degrees, assuming the grain of the material is going this direction. I want to ramp my plunge move. I typically like to ramp it 2 times the diameter of the bit. Remember, I had a 1/4 inch bit. We want to check our safe vectors. Everything looks good. We're going to go ahead, and I'm going to call this pocket for the sign. Now let's hit reset the preview, and you can see the area that's going to be carved out. So let's take a look at what that's going to look like. So we're going to preview the visible toolpath. And you can see that this is standing proud now. Let's go ahead and make this other toolpath over here, this pocket. I'm going to make that black so you can actually see what's being carved in there. So this lettering is standing proud 1/4 of an inch along with the profile of the fish and the line and the hook. You can see that, if you recall, if I run over this area, you'll see, if you look down in the lower right corner, over in this area here, right down there, it says minus 0.25. That tells you I've carved in minus 0.25 inches from my Z. My Z was the top of the material. The next part of doing this sign is to make the details in the fish stand out. So I want to carve the details in the fish so it's not just a blank silhouette. Recall that we had previously done this by carving it into the wood. So let's take a look at how the vectors were selected for that. I would like to change the fish when I'm previewing it to a different color so that I can see how it's going to look in the wood. So the first thing is looking at how the fish is set up. So the fish is set up to carve down in a VCarve toolpath. That means everything in between these areas is going to carve down 0.125. The pocket depth is 0.25. So it will have an interesting look in that it will be a stepped carving if we wanted to do that. So let's just take a look at how things look if I just don't change anything. We're going to go ahead and preview the visible toolpath. And the thing you should notice is that the line has been reduced. We've carved away some of that. That's what the orange is showing. And if you look in the corner, you'll see it's 0.0098. It's not carved all the way in. And inside the fish, all these orange areas are carved down 0.125, just like we said we would want to carve it. This is a nice look, and this may look good to you because the fish is standing proud. Some of it is standing proud further than the other, and you may indeed like this sign. Let's try a different version. We're now going to change the look of the fish. The first thing we want to notice is that none of the toolpaths are selected. That allows us to view the actual fish vectors without having a lot of noise from the toolpath. So we're going to select the toolpath, we're going to hit Edit, and we notice we were at 0.125. The first thing we want to change is change that to 0.1. I also want to use a different V-bit. I'm going to use the same V-bit we did when we carved around the gone fishing. I no longer need a clearance tool because I'm not going as deep and I don't have much area I want to cover. I want to look at the rest of this information and see if anything there is I need to change. Well, I do need to change. It says Vector Selection Manual. What I do need to change is the vectors I'm going to carve. Remember that this line had carved away. So I'm going to hit the Shift key. I'm going to select that vector. Notice I left the hook area because I'd want to carve down in there. The other thing I don't want to do is carve around the profile because that will stop us from having a stepped carving. This area out here will then be proud and everything inside of these vectors will be carved. I don't want the whole eyeball of the fish changed. I just want a circular there. I'd like to have, oh, I selected the wrong one, blow it up. I'd rather have this center section be wood and then just a line around it. I think it's kind of a cool look. I think I've got all the vectors selected correctly at this time, so we're going to hit Calculate. We want to reset the preview. Go ahead and select the toolpaths that we've actually changed so far. And we're going to hit Preview Visible Toolpaths because that selects the ones that are checked. And now you have the sign where you haven't carved as deep and you don't have the stepped look. You can see this is all at 0, 0, which is the Z depth. Look at that down in the right corner. All of this is at 0.1 or less, and we have a nice looking sign. We can twiddle this, as they say in Vetric terms, and you can see the depth of the sign. This is 0.25 inches deep. Everything else is standing proud, and the carved in areas are 0.1 inch or less as demonstrated through the Z height down in the bottom. To get back to a Z view, we'll go ahead and click Z. And now we'll go to our next set of changes. We want to do the decorative border or cut out the sign. Notice that we have a V border here. We no longer need that V border. That was from the previous sign. So we're going to delete that toolpath. I right click, hit delete, delete this, and that deleted that toolpath. And the profile toolpath is the one that actually cuts out the sign. We'll go ahead and edit that toolpath, make sure nothing's changed. We're cut depth of Z. Z means we're going all the way through the material. I still want to use a 1/4 inch end mill. We're on the outside of the vector. We're going not to do a separate last pass, and I like to use tabs. So tabs have already been added from a previous version. We're going to have 0.25 inches in length, 0.125 inches in thickness. If I look at this, you'll see we've added 6 tabs, so there's nothing I need to add. If I did need to add tabs, I could go ahead and hit edit tabs, and I could change the tabs around. We're going to add a ramp of 0.5, 2 times 1/4 inch. I'm going to change the name so I know what this profile toolpath does. Hit calculate, and then we can preview the visible toolpath. Everything else is previewed. And you can see there's our sign. Now, if we want to see what it looks like from a materials perspective, we can change the material color up here in the corner. And if we want to change it to a different type of material, say something lighter, we can go ahead and use something like beach light. That's kind of what it will look like without the color toolpaths. Where we had the color showing with the toolpaths, those are the areas you could either paint, or you could paint the standing proud areas. You would choose how you want to paint this sign. This demonstrates how you can change the look of your sign completely by just having various vectors selected in different methodologies using the same tools. So now it's time to go out and get this sign cut. So now we're going to start the process with turning on the machine, homing it, and walking through the various steps. The first thing we do is turn on the machine. When the machine turns on, we should see the indication come up to the speed symbol there, and we should see the controller turn on. Look, the controller didn't turn on. This has happened to me once before. If the controller doesn't turn on, the first thing you want to check is to make sure that it's got power on. We don't see the green button light on, so we know that it doesn't have power. So we turned on the actual handheld. The first thing it says is all access home. Remember, every time we turn on the machine, we have to re-home the machine, and that's what we'll do now. We do that by pressing the OK button. As we watch the machine, once again, it will come up to an area around here. It's set up so that its actual machine home is out past the table. That allows you to set up other home positions that would do various jobs, such as tenon joinery, if you wanted to do that on the front. You see this plate here, that's for setting up material in a vertical axis so that you could actually do dovetail joinery and other types of joinery. Okay, once we're home, the next step is to actually set the home for this job, home specific. Notice it moved from AX, AY, and AZ to 1X, 1Y, 1Z. We have up to 9 positions you can program in this Laguna controller. If you wanted to go to a different position, you'd hit menu and 2, and you'll see 2X, 2Y, 2Z, menu 3, menu 4, etc. So we'll just leave it on menu 2 for this job, and we're going to go ahead and zero the home position for this position.
So the first thing I want to do is put it in a nice location where I can change my bit. I'll change to the first bit that I will be using in the job. That will allow me to have an accurate home position on this corner because I'm using a V-bit. As we discussed before, it's always a good practice to have a piece of styrofoam or some soft material so that when you're changing your bits, if it drops out, it doesn't damage your material and doesn't damage your bit. And as I said, I like to keep my wrenches close to each other so I can use my gripping force without smashing my fingers. In this case, I'm going to actually change my collets because the bit I'm going to use has a 1/2-inch shank. I'm going to be using this bit here from Tools Today RC1105. This is an example of a bit that could be easily damaged if it fell and hit the ground. Putting it up to the little line to make sure it's far enough in. And now we'll go ahead and home it for this job. As we said, the home position on this job is the lower left corner. Each step moves 0.5 at a time. I'm in the right position now, so I'm going to go ahead and home the machine by hitting the XY 0 button. That tells me I'm homed in the X and the Y position. The next place that we need to zero will be the Z. So we're going to raise the machine, go to the area carving. We can press X and Y at the same time. We're going to move this piece of styrofoam that protects our material. We're going to get the 0 puck. And we're going to go ahead and use that to 0 the Z. Remember, first thing you want to check is that this thing is plugged in. The way we zero it is we take the Z down close to the area that we're going to be using. Then the next thing that we want to do is to hit the menu on off. Now we're actually zeroed in the X, Y, and Z position. We'll go ahead and install our tool pass using the USB port. Give it a second to actually read the USB. Hit run pause. It says UDisk file. We're going to select the UDisk file. We'll hit OK. And the first toolpath that we're going to run is this RC1045. I like to keep my toolpaths in the order I'm going to run them. I typically like to run my V-bits first. So that's the first thing we're going to do is run this bit right here. Okay, now we've got the machine zeroed. Everything's ready to get started. We've got the USB in. We've selected the toolpath. The next step is to turn on the dust collector and put on our PPE. So I'll put on my glasses. I'm going to turn on the dust collector, and then you'll see me come over here and start the toolpath. So this is the toolpath we want to use, RC1045. We're going to go ahead and hit OK. Work speed, everything looks good. Hit OK. Okay, we just finished our first toolpath using the V-bit. Now it's time to change to our next toolpath, which will be a 1/4" end milled downcut bit. That bit will be used to first hog out all the rest of this material, and then we'll do a profile cut to cut the sign. Now this bit is the one that has a nasty habit because it's heavy 1/2" chunk dropping down in here. So we've got this styrofoam here to protect it, and you may get to see exactly why. I think I'll catch it this time, so that's good. Change back to the 1/4" collet. Quarter-inch bit, locate the spot that it needs to go to, hold my thumb there. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and re-zero this puck. We're ready to start the machine, put on our safety glasses. Okay, now we're ready to start the program. I've selected 2DNC250 as our program. I'm going to go ahead and hit the OK button in a minute, but first I'm going to go ahead and start the dust collector and get ready for the cut. Okay, now it's time to get this machine running. So the next step is to go ahead and select the next tool path. Select 3 Tech DNC 250. The bit has already been zeroed from before, no reason to need to re-zero it. We're going to go ahead and hit OK at this time. The machine will start to run, and while it's starting up, I'll go turn on the dust collector. Here we go. As you recall, in the previous video, we built a sign where the text was actually carved into the wood along with the graphic. In this video, we described how, with a few simple changes in the Vetric software, we could actually change the total look of the sign. And in this case, you see the letters are standing proud along with the graphic. In the next video, we'll describe how to use some of the changes that have been put in place with the Vetric 11 software. We're going to go ahead and take a cribbage board from a template that is already in place and resize that template such that it can fit on a smaller cribbage board. This used to be a large project and lots of work before the version 11 of the Vetric software. It is now an easy process to do. If you like the content in this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this information. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.